Hi everyone, Jennifer Eklund here with Kris Skaletski, my co-author for the Road Trip series. This webinar is going to cover the Road Trip Country Carnival book. Road Trip is a series of 4 method books intended for beginners ages 4 and up. The series is essentially a lateral series, meaning that you can start a beginner in any of the books that you choose. Each book has a different storyline running through it, and each book features 18 primer level pieces that are multi-key and very flexible in their approach that you can teach by note, by rote, or by number. So Kris is going to talk a little bit about our core philosophy behind Road Trip.
Jennifer and I really believe strongly in assumed competence, which really just means teaching to the highest mark and then adjusting the lesson accordingly based on where your student happens to be. Keeping in mind that there's a lot of variation in those younger ages, 4 or 5-year-old, there is no standard. They're at their own place individually, developmentally, and so we want to teach that lesson adjusting as needed. There's a lot of layering, laddering, scaffolding, if you will, in the lessons, in these songs that really give you that latitude to move around. And again, always thinking in terms of what does that child need from that lesson at that given point in time.
Right. So we have a couple essential resources for you as teachers, and because we're always looking out for you. We have a chart that is on the Piano Pronto website in the teacher resources section, and also available on any Road Trip product page, which basically lays out our suggested order of books. Our core concept from the beginning was that we wanted to give the power of choice to the student. Each Road Trip book, as I mentioned, has a different storyline running through it. So what we wanted a choose your own adventure type series where a student would finish a road trip book and then essentially get to decide which adventure they wanted to take next. If they wanted to go to the lake or if they wanted to go to the farm, they would have the power of choice, which is something we don't often give to students when they're first starting out because of course we know best, right? But we will say that even though every book starts from the very beginning, meaning you could take a beginner who has never played before and start them in any of the road trip books. We do have a suggested order now that the series is completed. If you plan on using the entire series that you might want to move through in this direction. Now that being said, we all know that when students are very motivated to do something, they will push to reach that level. So if the idea of going to the carnival is really appealing to them, let them go to the carnival. They will find a way to go ahead and master those songs. And then you don't have to feel as though you're taking a step backwards just because you're going to move to one of the other road trip books that might be, a little easier according to our list. There's so many different concepts and different blocks of concepts that we introduce in the road trip books that they're really going to benefit by moving through multiple road trip books throughout the lesson process. So aside from, being flexible as a teacher, we realize that sometimes, the biggest worry that teachers have is, wow, what am I going to do with a 4 and 5-year-old for a half an hour? That seems like an eternity. Well, the teacher guidebooks that accompany the road trip books are really essential items for you to have as a teacher. We have given you comprehensive lesson plans for all 18 songs that occur in each of the road trip books. So we basically laid out for you how we see the lesson unfolding. Now that being said, we tend to give you more items than you actually need to fill up that time. But that's because we understand that you're all unique as teachers. You all bring a different skill set to the table, and you have the ability to sort of pick and choose what you want to do. And by all means, we want to encourage you to use the tools from your own teaching toolbox to really augment the experience and make it, unique to your studio. The other part of the teacher guidebooks are the teacher duet parts. You'll have 2 parts for every song. First is a deconstructed version that's got less going on sonically, which is sometimes much appreciated by young students who can get confused if there's too much going on in a teacher duet part. And then you have the second Jennifer version, which is the one that you want them to aspire to. So the teacher guidebooks are definitely essential. We purposely did not put instructions in the student book because we really want the road trip books to become a keepsake item, where the students are essentially creating a musical scrapbook of their road trip experience. So guidebooks are absolutely essential.
The other thing I would say is to keep the clean layout, because we really
Yeah.
want it to be applicable for all types of learners. Some children, too much on a page can be overwhelming, so we kept it clean by design.
Right. And let's be honest, a 4-year-old's not going to read the instructions in their book.
Exactly.
They need the guidance. They need the guidance. Aside from the teacher guidebook, the road trip super soundtracks that we have are wonderful. It's a wonderful way for students to not only have fun in the lesson, but to take the road trip fun home with them during the week. We have a wonderful jazz vocalist who recorded these soundtracks for us. She starts by reading the verse for each lesson, and then she sings the student song. Which is a wonderful way for students to start to, incorporate those lyrics and start to memorize them.
Listening is learning.
Absolutely. And then they have the recording of just the backing track with the piano part, and then the duet recording. So we know that it's sometimes a lot to expect a very young student to go home and practice, especially if they maybe don't have parents who who get very involved in the at-home part of the piano lesson process. So even just listening to the road trip music during the week is a wonderful, let's say, homework activity for them to be doing.
Exactly. I completely agree. So we're going to dive a little bit into the book and give you an overview. And just really briefly, songs 1, 2, and 3 are really a lot of great foundation and prep for what's coming in the rest of the book. Early introduction of concepts, the beginning concepts such as time signature, note values, counting, and we're setting the stage for something that's not unique to the road trip series, but you'll see more of it in the Carnival book, is that an amp up of concept and then a little bit of a plateau. And then we amp up again, adding new concepts and then another plateau. So songs 1, 2, and 3 are a lot of that layering or the laddering, scaffolding, again, whatever you prefer to call it. We want to give them a strong foundation so that, as they continue with their piano lessons, they are feeling comfortable and confident. I'm not sure if we mentioned in the beginning, we feel strongly about review being an important component. So review leads to comfort and confidence, and comfort and confidence lead to competence.
I'm glad I don't have to say that 3 times fast.
Yeah.
Comfort and confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're it sounds what?
It's a tongue twister.
Yeah, it is. So 1, 2, and 3 are a lot of foundational knowledge, and we want to stress that you can use your own terminology. If you refer to something by another name in your studio, you don't have to use the word that's suggested. We want you to use these tools and make them your own in your own studio. You can certainly use the verbiage if you choose to, but your own words are a great tool. We're going to start amping things up at song number 4 and 5 and 6 in the book. You'll see staccato and a discussion of touch, as well as light left hand, right hand work with slurs and opposite staccatos and more complicated rhythms.
Right. Something you'll notice in the Country Carnival book is that we tend to introduce multiple elements into a piece, whereas in the other road trip books, we would tend to stick to maybe 1 or 2 core concepts as being a new element that they're learning. So there's a little bit more layering of multiple elements in the Country Carnival songs, which is probably why we deemed it to be, the more challenging book in the series.
Right, and students can skip around. The story is not set in stone. If they want to get Corn on the Cob, which is song number 7, it's a little bit easier.
Right.
If they've gone through 4, 5, and 6, it's going to feel like they've plateaued again a little bit at 7. That lateral work, so they feel like, okay, I can take some time to master this. But let's say song number 6 is just a little bit too much for them to bite off at that time. Scoot over and get a cob of corn and then come back to it, right?
Absolutely. And, just as kids are so easily flexible with things, we like to encourage you teachers to also be flexible and remember that there is not a prescribed order for doing everything. We have set everything up in the books that we are doing so much review that you don't need to worry if you skip a couple songs or you skip around in the book. We are coming back to all of those major concepts, so you won't be missing anything. And there doesn't need to be a prescribed order to introduce concepts, as long as you're introducing them effectively.
Correct. We use lyrics a lot or words again to help with rhythm patterns. Song number 9 is called Sticky Cotton Candy. And those are the words, sticky cotton candy. Very memorable, easy for a child to say it along with the clapping of it, sticky cotton candy. So you'll see that is very pervasive in the lesson plans. Again, using words, whether they're different words if you choose, or the lyrics play really nicely into internalizing that rhythm.
Right, and that comes back to them listening to their soundtrack during the week, so they can start memorizing these lyrics, and then when they come across it and have to actually take that pattern onto the piano, it isn't a jarring thing, and it's something more concrete to hang on to instead of 1 and 2 and 1 2.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah.
We like tricks in the songs, and one of those tricks has traditionally been the crossover or the left to right. In the Carnival book, we have a couple fun tricks. One of them that I think the kids will like is in Roadtrip Braille, which is song number 10. The student part is embedded with a duet that the student is playing between the two hands of the teacher. So if I'm the student in the middle, Jennifer...
Oops, sorry. We're still friends.
The student is here, and...
There we are. Yes, there we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the student part is embedded between the two hands of the teacher part, which is just fun, and it sounds fantastic.
And it looks really cool.
Yeah, it does. I think they'll like that. Yeah.
Well, and then as I was saying with the duets, the first duet version does not involve you playing over the top of the student. It's actually just you playing low. We have a couple of songs in the Country Carnival book that are written in the bass clef, and kids like to play those sort of low, growly songs. Not only are they playing low on the piano in Roadtrip Braille, but they've got harmonic intervals, which they love to do because it's just, it's juicy and
sounds good.
Yeah, it sounds cool and nice to listen to. So the first teacher duet part is just the left hand, so you're down really low on the piano, and it really does sound like the train coming down the track. And then once they're comfortable, you can start to do the second version where you're sort of sandwiched in between each other. Totally cool thing to do at a recital. It would come off as a really sort of flashy showcase. Right.
In each of the books, we have the vehicle that's central to the story. So in the first book, The Lake, it was the little VW Beetle. Yeah. And in Outdoor Adventure, it's the Airstream trailer with the VW van. And in Country Carnival, we've chosen the Roadtrip Rail. It's a train engine, so a lot of fun. A lot of kids like trains.
And she still hits me in the car every time we see a vegan. It's just I had a bruise the last time I was in Wisconsin. Road trip.
I'm trying to toughen her up.
Yeah,
So that is the trick in Roadtrip Braille, which leads to song number 11, which is called Super Slide, which has a fun trick in there. It's a glissando. You don't often see that in a young person's book, but kids love the tricks. They love the fun of that. So we've got great suggestions for teaching that, but they either using a little pad of Post-it notes or an index card that's folded or a little beanie baby or a stuffed animal. At the end of the song, the teacher and the student simultaneously play a glissando down the keyboard to mimic the Super Slide, which is just going to be a lot of fun for them. They're going to love that.
Absolutely, and they'll want to do it over and over and over again. So, building on this idea of layering concepts, you'll notice that after you get past number 11, which is Super Slide, which has the glissando in it, you'll notice that in the lesson plans for a few of the songs later in the book, we tell you to give the option to the student to add a glissando at the end. So, very much so, again, we're always coming back and reviewing concepts. So the glissando is not a one and done item. You might not see it notated in any of the later songs, but you are going to give students the option to go ahead and do a glissando upward. In Super Slide, they're doing it downward.
A lot of fun. God bless you.
Me. Thank you.
We don't shy away from what would be traditionally considered not an elementary concept, if you will. Song number 12 is called Country Carousel. It's in 3/4 time, so it's really, applicable if you want to turn that soundtrack on again and sway with the music. So they're working on, well, look at us go. I want to sing and dance while they do that. But we've got a dotted quarter with an 8th note rhythm in this song.
Yeah, this is one of those rhythms that students totally know it because of songs that they sing traditionally. I can't tell you how many times as a teacher I've introduced, elementary versions of Jingle Bells that maybe don't have the dotted rhythm written in on the jingle all the way. But what does the student do? They add it because they know that it's there.
Mhm.
So we really see this as an opportunity to make that eye-ear connection that's so important. And they absolutely can do it because they know what these rhythms sound like. So why not show it to them on the page in its, native form?
Exactly.
So something that's really nice about Country Carousel, which is song number 12, is that it's actually the opening motif for Silent Night, which hopefully is a familiar tune to most kids, and if it's not, it should be, and we're bringing it back.
That's right. That's right.
So it's a really nice way to introduce that dotted rhythm, not in a holiday context, but it's familiar
The ease
here.
of playing, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And this is another really nice song that layers two melodies together. So the student part has this dotted rhythm, a la Silent Night, and then the teacher duet part is actually the melody of "Blow the Man Down," which I for some reason associate with the fair or the carnival, and that's why it's in there. So it's nice. It's a nice little mashup.
It's a great
mashup.
Yeah. Sounds terrific.
Yeah.
A little bit of trivia. So we have the farm book that we'll be doing in a separate webinar, but one of the farm animals is Daisy Dog, and you will find Daisy Dog in the Carnival book as well. So that'll be fun for your students to kind of look for Daisy Dog hidden in some of the pictures as they go through the Carnival. She has an active role there as well.
Yeah, it's a nice little common thread that will run through the books, and she wears a little letter D on her bandanas because D is for Daisy and D is for dog and D is for two black keys.
The D between, correct.
Song
number 12 marks a little bit of an amp up again because we had the dotted quarter.
Song 13.
Well, actually, no, it started at 12 with the dotted quarter on the 8th, and now we're going to continue to amp up.
I think I can read her mind, but I can't.
You probably can, actually. We don't want to test that. So then song number 13 kind of continues that amp up because besides the dotted quarter with an 8th, we're tossing staccato and quarter rest in here. But again, with that idea of offering the opportunity for learning it if they're ready for it, and then adapting the lesson if they're not quite ready for that.
Yeah. One of the unique things about the Country Carnival book in the Roadtrip series, since we do sort of see this as the encore book in the series, we are gently starting to introduce the idea of music analysis in this book. The activities are a little bit more theory-based in that the students are going to have to complete writing activities that are actually on the staff. So we're sort of getting them ready to take that plunge into more traditional method book series and traditional theory books where they'll have to be writing things. And we also see a great value in students being able to notate things. So in a lot of the songs in Country Carnival on the student workbook pages, you'll notice that we've taken fragments of the song that they're about to learn. We've extracted them and put them over in the workbook section. And we'll have certain elements missing, like the bar lines or the stems. And really what we're doing is we're asking the students to use the piece as a reference point and then to, add the elements that are missing. Maybe there's a flag on an 8th note that's missing or a dot on a quarter note. So using the piece as a point of reference to recreate it over on the opposite page. And so we're sort of, amping that up and really getting them thinking about what they're looking at on the page.
Right. I love that analysis that it's built in there because their self-discovery is really what's going to bring that message home.
Right. And one of the most important things we do as a teacher is we're always talking about teaching kids how to practice effectively. And one of the things, that leads to effective practicing is really learning how to break down the music and to look at it analytically right from the get-go. I know that I stress this in the Piano Pronto series, that we're always looking at the music before we start to play it. You'll notice that in Roadtrip, we start prepping them for that. In the teacher guide, the time to play section is basically a rundown of questions, things that you need to be constantly asking them. Where is the treble clef? Can you show me the time signature? What does that mean? Where is the repeat sign and what does that mean? If you continually ask these questions over and over again, you get them thinking in this logical step-by-step fashion, which is really going to help them later down the road when they want to sit and actually teach themselves how to play something.
Right. And using what things are actually called is a great teaching tool.
Right.
Treble clef is a treble clef, and a time signature is a time signature.
Right.
We both really like song number 14. It's Hot Diggity Dog. And
I just shuffled.
I think she just danced.
That's as close as I get.
A little bit of a back off here again. Again, it's not that it's easier, but it's, again, a little bit more a lateral trajectory after that little bit of an amp up they had. And we want them to be able to digest, go back and play those songs and have another song that they can, again, where they are, meet at their level of mastery at that point. So it's a nice little song that's in 2/4, and that rhythm, there are groups of the 2/8 notes that, what you gonna do, hot diggity duck. Again, taught by words really easily.
Right. And yes, that is a swing rhythm you hear. Now,
yes.
I guess one of the only, cutesy names we use, we do call them jazzy eighth notes instead of calling them swing eighth notes. Because when we teach the jazzy eighth notes in the Road Trip series, we're having the students clap jazzy rhythm, jazzy rhythm, jazzy rhythm, just because it's easier to remember.
Right.
But otherwise, we call it like we see it.
That's exactly right.
If it's a forte marking, it's a forte marking. If it's a quarter note, it's a quarter note. It's just like learning a language. You're going to call it what it is, and that's how you become fluent in the language.
Right.
So the only new concept in Hot Diggity Dog is the idea of internal repeat signs, which is an important thing to know. Again, not something that they would necessarily come across very early on in a traditional method book series, but my goodness, it doesn't hurt them to know what it is. And I really like that we've done that with the Road Trip series. We're showing them a lot of concepts, pretty early in the process. And so what if they get to it, way down the road in whatever method book series they start to use? That's okay. It's okay for them to know. Again, getting back to this idea of there not being a pre-prescribed order of concepts that you need to work through as a teacher. We really want you to sort of, if you're, not that you're in that mindset, but if you are, you have the flexibility to teach them things as they come about.
Right.
Yeah.
I would say a great tool would be to turn the soundtrack on and to march and move around the room, saying the lyrics and singing along. Again, working in that internalizing of the beat, because movement is such a big part. Movement and listening are huge facets to learning to play the piano.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Song number 15 and 16, we've got a lot of crossovers and staccatos going on, but we like crossovers, don't we?
We do. We like crossing the midline in both directions. So I think even before I ever worked with Kris, I was very used to, doing crossovers with the left hand going over the right hand. And then when she told me, you need to cross the other direction on the midline too, and I said, oh, I do. Okay, that's more difficult. But you know what? It's one of those tricks. They love doing it. It looks cool. And I will say this about our crossovers. They are always strategic crossovers. We do not have a student crossing over to a far and distant land where they can't find the note. The crossover is invariably always happening onto a note that is adjacent to the fifth finger of the hand that they're crossing over. So if the left hand is crossing over, it's almost always crossing over to the note right above the right hand
Makes
finger
it
5.
easier to spot the landing, if you will.
And it's less scary that way.
Yeah.
We know how students get, when they're in position, they tend to be happy and comfortable. They know where they are. Sometimes asking them to move the hand is kind of a scary prospect. But if you're giving it a focal point by, you're just going right over the pinky.
Right.
It's less scary.
I think that's the thing with Road Trip. They're all over the keyboard. Is there really a position for a Road Trip song?
No, there's not. And I, as a writer myself, I know the thing I hear most often is, well, what do I do about the kid who thinks that this is the D finger forever and this is the G finger? Well, you know what? With Road Trip, you are not going to have that trouble. And that's why it really works as a lovely book to use in tandem with a keyboard kickoff, which is a little bit more traditionally position-based, albeit we get them moving around as well using fingering numbers. But with Road Trip, the sky's the limit. They're all over the keyboard playing bass clef, treble clef, crossing over, black keys, white keys, and you really just sort of, take the boundary lines off, which is great.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like traveling the world on the piano. Ooh,
nice analogy.
That's a new analogy. I like it. Oh, triplets. I know. Do I see triplets?
Song 17 is next. That's what we're going to talk about. It does have triplets.
Yeah.
And a little bit of trivia. The first time I met you, we shared a lemonade.
Yes, we did.
And number 17 is called Lemonade Stand.
Yeah.
So there are triplet patterns in here, and we use the word lemonade to help teach it. Lemonade, lemonade. And there's also a flat sign, but again, using the word or moving to that sound while you're saying lemonade, lemonade, they easily get the feel for that. So not to be concerned by it. And Jennifer has a really cool trick with the ball that could be used with this or with legato. First, she's going to hang on to it. Do you want to show them? Should I hold the binder up?
Yeah, or I can hold the iPad up.
Oh, even better.
Maybe that's
all right. There you go.
Yeah, so I've got this little squishy stress ball. Not that I have stress. No, I don't have stress. Sure, you can get these anywhere. Ball of yarn would work. Tennis ball would work. We like this one because it's soft and pliable. But you can have the student just sit their hand right over the top of it. And you can adjust this easily for smaller hands by moving the ball further back towards the wrist. So something we have you do a lot, and this is mentioned in the teacher guide. I really have a problem with cameras.
Yeah.
We have them rolling through the finger combinations that we have them using for particular songs. So on this one, we're using the 3-2-1 combination. So it's really nice to teach this combination rotating in both directions, just for a nice loose wrist, relaxed wrist, and for them to learn this on a tabletop or on top of the fall board before they actually take it onto the piano. So you'll see that suggestion a lot throughout the teacher guide.
Yes.
It's a really nice way to get some talk about technique in there.
Right, probably would be really applicable with other students as well, older students. It's just a nice trick.
It's just fun to play with the swishy ball.
She's been playing with the ball.
Yeah.
And then we get to number 18. There's always 18 songs in a book, and number 18 is a recap of the opening theme, our Carnival Farewell, in a more difficult version. Certainly we want them to feel that measure of success, that they've come that great distance. It's the signal that our road trip is wrapping up.
Right, and it's a touch point of familiarity because they'll recognize your teacher duet part. Note to you teachers, you might actually have to practice this teacher duet part. The Country Carnival theme song is the entry of the Gladiators, the famous little carnival tune. She would hum it, but yeah, okay.
She doesn't like when I dance.
lots of chromatics and fun stuff for you to play.
It's a great piece,
and it's fast too.
Yeah.
So super fun. And again, just sort of bringing them full circle. They entered the carnival, and it was a very easy version, just straight half notes all the way through.
Yeah.
And then after learning all of these fun things and glissandos and swing rhythm and flats and triplets, they get to the end. It's quite an easy song, but what we've added in this time are the harmonic fifths and fourths, so they get that little bit of juiciness in the sound, yet that touch point of familiarity that they've I've done this before.
Right, exactly.
Now I'm just doing it fancier.
Competence.
Yeah.
Comfort and confidence lead to competence. That's right. Full-time fun.
I can finish it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Full-time fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anything else?
I don't think so. Enjoy.
Okay.